Golden Heart stood near the edge of the village, the soft breeze rustling the leaves of the trees around him. The world felt quiet in the early hours, with the sun just peeking over the horizon, casting a gentle glow across the land. His mind wandered, as it often did, to Amy. After all the moments they had shared, some tender, some tense, he couldn't help but feel drawn to her even more. He didn't expect anything from her. He never did. Amy was guarded, holding her emotions close. He understood that now, even if it took time. His patience with her wasn't out of pity. It was because he truly saw something in her that deserved all the space and time in the world. As he stood lost in thought, a familiar figure appeared in the distance. It was Amy. She wasn't her usual hurried self. Her posture was more relaxed, though there was still something cautious in the way she approached. Her eyes flickered toward him for a moment, then looked away.
"Morning,"
she said, her voice quieter than usual, as if testing the waters of their conversation. Golden Heart smiled softly.
Morning, Amy. How are you today?
She shrugged, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her dress.
"Better, I guess. Just needed some air."
He nodded, not wanting to press her further. She hadn't said much lately, but he'd noticed how she'd begun to linger in the same places he stood, her presence becoming a little less distant with each passing day. For a while they just stood there in comfortable silence, watching the village slowly awaken. It was a peaceful moment, and Golden Heart didn't mind the quiet. He found solace in just being near her, knowing that she was slowly, carefully, allowing him to be part of her world. Then, to his surprise, Amy spoke again, her voice quieter, almost as if she was talking to herself.
"You know I may have said this before, but I've noticed the villagers talking about you. They say you've been helping out a lot, fixing things, lending a hand."
Golden Heart blinked, caught off guard by her observation.
Oh, it's nothing. Just trying to help where I can.
She glanced at him, her gaze a little softer than before.
"It's not nothing. They appreciate it, you know, even if they don't say it."
Golden Heart tilted his head slightly, studying her expression. There was something behind her words, something she wasn't saying outright. She was beginning to acknowledge his presence in her life, even if only in the smallest ways. It wasn't a gift or a grand gesture, but it was enough. A recognition, a step forward.
Thanks.
He said gently, unsure of what else to say. He didn't want to push her, to make her feel like she owed him anything.
That means a lot coming from you.
Amy shifted on her feet, clearly uncomfortable with the conversation, but there was no harshness in her tone.
"I just thought maybe you should know that what you're doing here, it matters."
Golden Heart smiled again, feeling warmth bloom in his chest.
Thank you, Amy, really.
For a moment, she seemed like she might say more, but then she hesitated. Her hands clenched at her sides before she finally looked back at him. There was something vulnerable in her eyes, though she tried to mask it behind her usual strength.
"I'm not great at this,
She admitted quietly.
talking, being open, but I see what you're doing, and I don't want you to think it goes unnoticed."
Her words lingered in the air, heavy with the weight of her guarded heart. Golden Heart understood. This wasn't her opening up fully, but it was something important. She was trying, in her own way, to show him that she saw him, that she appreciated him.
You don't have to explain, Amy.
He said gently.
I get it. And I'm not here for praise or recognition. I'm here because I care. About this village. About you.
Her eyes widened slightly, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she simply nodded, her expression softening just a fraction more.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to see that.
Without another word, she turned to leave, but before she did, she hesitated.
I'll see you around, okay?
Goldenheart smiled, watching her walk away, her figure gradually disappearing into the village. There was no dramatic moment, no big revelation, but to him it was enough. Amy was starting to let him in, little by little in her own quiet way. And for now, that was everything he needed. As the sun climbed higher into the sky, Goldenheart remained there, feeling the warmth of the day slowly fill the space Amy had left. It wasn't a gift, it wasn't spoken affection, but it was a sign. Amy was slowly, carefully beginning to trust him, and he would wait for as long as it took.